Six Flags is probably the most well-known amusement park chain outside of industry Goliaths like Universal and Disney. They currently run 15 amusement parks across the country, accompanied by various water parks. Each park in the chain is on a different scale and has different needs in order to be successful. Some of their parks are more family-based, but others go all out for the thrills. I think each park has room for improvement, so today I'll be talking about something that each park needs in order to improve the experience. This could include a new roller coaster, new flat ride, more family attractions, or just general park improvements. Some parks definitely need a lot more than others, but I'll try to limit each park to one specific area for their biggest need. I've currently only been to 5 of the 15 amusement park properties in the chain, so I'll be basing my assessment on what other people have said for the parks that I haven't been to. So feel free to tell me what you think any park needs down in the comments below. Also, keep in mind that these aren't really predictions, just more what I think each park should get to make the experience better. I did try to keep these pretty realistic, but you never know how Six Flags is going to invest in certain parks, so it's only realistic to a certain degree. Before I jump into the video, make sure to do me a huge favor by liking this video to show me that you are enjoying my content, which motivates me to keep making videos. Also, don't forget to subscribe as well if you like Six Flags content like this. That said, let's get into the video. First, let's start off with my home park, Six Flags Darien Lake in Western New York. This park could use a lot of improvements, but I think general updating, fine-tuning, and improvements to park operations would benefit this park the most. Before Six Flags took over operations of this park, the owners sold off the second train to most of the major coasters, so with the exception of Tantrum, every coaster only runs with one train. Getting a second train for popular rides like Ride of Steel, Viper, and Predator would do wonders to decrease the length of slow-moving lines. Another product of this park not having any long-term ownership is that you can sort of feel each operator's effect when they had their time at the park. Some parts of the park feel old and outdated, while others feel more modern, but are slowly falling off. The park could really benefit from some touch-ups to the walkways, more landscaping, better food options, and even a redo of the entrance. I think the entrance is nice, but it is smaller and could easily be reworked. A lot of flat rides at the park are pretty old and are in need of refurbishment as well. This past year they renovated Pirate, so I think this would be something that would benefit a lot of the older flat rides. I think these improvements would open the gates for some major investment that could make this park a destination for families and coaster enthusiasts. Great Escape is an underrated little park. I'll be honest, I've only been to this park once and I didn't have a great day, but the park had some good traits. It seemed well kept, the theming was pretty good, and the water park looked nice. They also had a lot of smaller rides that were really fun. However, I did think the park was missing a modern thrill coaster. They did a nice job filling out their flat ride collection over the past few years, so the park is pretty set in that category. I think a moderately sized thrill coaster would take this park to another level. A lot of people might say a Raptor or something like that would be good for the park. And although I don't disagree with that, I think there's a better option. I think that a Premier Rides launch coaster would actually be even better for this park. Something like Icebreaker or a single track version of West Coast Racers would be perfect for this park. The clientele of this park is mostly families, so getting a thrilling attraction while keeping it somewhat family based would make it a perfect balance. It would satisfy the thrill seekers while giving kids a chance to enjoy it too. I think a launch coaster would be a perfect fit, but just about any other medium-sized thrill coaster would also work at this park. LaRonde is said to be one of the worst or the worst Six Flags park by many. I haven't had the chance to experience this park, but it looks like they have a mediocre roller coaster collection and a pretty solid flat ride collection. I'm not sure what the park needs more. It doesn't seem like this park is well taken care of, nor does it seem like they have a dedicated family section at the park either. I have to lean toward park improvements, because I've heard the food is not very good, the appearance is okay, and the park is kind of just bland. This is supported by the fact that the park has a giant wooden coaster that is practically never open, and the park doesn't really seem to care. They also just canceled their new for 2022 coaster V-Pair, so that isn't a great sign either. I think that this park just needs a lot of work, and it looks like the chain doesn't really care for it. They have some good looking rides like Goliath and Le Vamp, in addition to a lot of good thrilling flat rides. They've been removing a lot of coasters lately, and they haven't replaced any of them with the cancellation of Vipere. I'll lean toward the park improvements on this one, but I do think this park could benefit from a new family area. Six Flags New England is a pretty solid park in Massachusetts. I wasn't necessarily blown away by this park, but I did think it was pretty good. They have a strong top 2 with Wicked Cyclone and Superman the Ride, but beyond that, their coaster lineup isn't the best. The park has also been pulling in major crowds lately as well. The park is lacking in the land department, but I think a B&M dive coaster or a high capacity launch coaster would help the park to solve both of these issues. I think something like Dr. Diabolico's Cliffhanger would work well at this park. They don't have a vertical drop style coaster, and this ride would give the park a good capacity machine. A larger launch coaster from S&S like Max Force also wouldn't be bad, as the park does not currently have a launch coaster. Those rides are pretty good in the capacity department as well. The enthusiast pick would probably be the air launch coaster, but I think either one of these would fill a gap in the park's lineup. Six Flags Great Adventure boasts one of the country's best collections of rides. From the world's tallest coaster in Kingda Ka to modern day delights like Jersey Devil, this park is stacked with thrill rides. I think something that would really help to round this park out would be an update to one of their kiddie areas, preferably with a new package of rides. The kiddie area by Jersey Devil has been getting some updates lately, like the Little Devil coaster being redone, in addition to some general rebranding to that area. I think the focus should be on updating the Bugs Bunny National Park section of the park. This part of the park is outdated and needs some updating, especially now that Junior Thrill Seekers is improving. I think retheming it to the DC Super Friends would be a good move to actually make people want to check this area out. Bugs Bunny is a bit of an outdated IP, so why not make it something more fresh? Six Flags America is a thoroughly underrated park in my opinion. I don't actually think this park has a whole lot of holes for being a mid-sized regional amusement park. They have a decent coaster collection, some good flat rides, good family rides, pretty good service, and a good looking water park. I think the next step for this park would be to get a new ground up thrill coaster. This park has a lot of room to work with, but I think something on the smaller side would make sense considering that the park already has some larger coasters and they don't need to invest a crazy amount of money to get a solid return here. An RMC Raptor would be a perfect fit. It would get lots of people talking, bring more guests out while not being that costly. I think they could go with a Jersey Devil type model or a Wonder Woman clone, because I don't really think capacity would be that big of an issue at this location. I would like to see them put it in between Superman and Batwing because there's a large gap between those two rides. And it would be good for another big ride to be in that part of the park. Six Flags Over Georgia is another solid looking park that has a good lineup of coasters and rides. This park doesn't have a whole lot of holes either. However, I do think their relatively new water park is in need of an expansion. I know this park has a segregated water park down the road from it, but I don't think that would justify not spending money on the in-park water park. In terms of what exactly they should add, I think there's a lot of ways you can go with this. You could add a lazy river, a new water slide complex, or something less traditional like a surf rider. Personally, I combine the lazy river option with some new tube slides. You can't go wrong with either of those things, especially in Georgia where it can get very hot in the summer months. I think that anything added to the water park would be a welcome addition. Another wildcard here could be a mock power splash coming to the dry side of the park, given that one of the park's water rides just closed. I don't think this is overly likely, but if Aquaman goes over well at Six Flags Over Texas, we could see a power splash here at this park too, which would also fill the need for another water attraction. Six Flags Mexico is quite an underrated park that has a few good coasters. The park is very well attended, so I think that would justify a new coaster. Looking at their lineup, the park is still missing a launch coaster. A lot of rides at this park are low on capacity with the exception of Superman Ultimo Escape and maybe Medusa Steel Coaster when it's running 2 trains. I think a Dueling Premier Rides launch coaster would help out that problem a lot. Something more inversion focused could also be a big help as well because there's not really a good inversion based coaster at this park. An SNS Looper could be a good option for this park as well, or an SNS Air Launch would also fit. I think any of these options could fill the need for the park and give the park another ride to help shorten lines across the board. Six Flags Over Texas is where the chain got its start, but this park has fallen out of favor in the past few years. Over Texas hasn't gotten a major coaster since New Texas Giant in 2011, so there's nothing that would be considered spectacular by today's standards. All they've gotten since is a mock power splash and a 4D free spin. This park does have a nice lineup of roller coasters and doesn't have a lot of holes. I would say that this park could use a dive coaster, but Fiesta Texas is getting a dive coaster, and I don't really feel like it would do the park a whole lot of justice. Even though I wouldn't put it past Six Flags to give this park a similar ride. I think a big GCI wooden coaster or a custom Raptor would be a good fit for this park and hopefully give them a new standout ride. I don't know how realistic a GCI would be, but I do think some kind of Raptor would be something Six Flags could also look to install. I hope Six Flags does give this park some love with something special in the future regardless of what it is. Six Flags Fiesta Texas is another park that has a great lineup of attractions. This park is also at the top of the food chain for Six Flags, and that doesn't look to be slowing down with the addition of their new B&M dive coaster for this year. Looking at the park's lineup, the only thing that I could really think that could use a little help is their lineup of kiddie rides. I think a few more of those would benefit the park as their kiddie area doesn't seem to have too much from what I can tell. The park is pretty much loaded in all of their areas, including their water park that looks very good as well. Frontier City is a family-based park that doesn't have a whole lot to offer in the thrills department. I don't think that this park really needs a major coaster or anything like that because that isn't the audience the park is trying to cater to. However, it wouldn't hurt to add a mid-sized flat ride to the lineup. I think a smaller frisbee or discovery attraction would be a good fit, or even a small-scale drop tower would work well. Again, this park is based for families, but they do have some thrill rides for an older audience, and I think a flat ride would bode well for this park. Six Flags St. Louis is a decent looking Six Flags park, but they are lacking a star attraction that pops out at you. I've always thought a new generation Vekoma would be absolutely perfect for this park. I'm seeing one of their wooden coasters also would likely add a big coaster that would be the star attraction at the park. A Raptor or even a B&M Mini Hyper could also be some options that I would love to see come to this park. If they can't get a major coaster, I'd like to see them at least put in a big flat ride, especially after they just removed their intimate drop tower. A giant discovery is another thing we'd like to see here as well. This park just needs another major attraction in any form. Six Flags Great America is loaded with great coasters from top to bottom, and the park is definitely a top tier Six Flags park. This park isn't missing much, but I think its Impala Giant Discovery will help to enhance the park's lineup of thrilling flat rides. All they really have is a super loop, drop tower, and an old frisbee ride that could be replaced by a giant discovery. Six Flags has given one of these to almost all of their major parks except Great America, so adding one here would make a lot of sense. Six Flags Discovery Kingdom has gotten a lot of investment over the years, mainly centered toward the thrill department. A lot of these new rides have gone to the front of the park, while the back of the park has gotten neglected. This park features a combination of rides and animals, and the back of the park is where most of the animal related attractions are. I've heard that there are a lot of SB&O rides toward the back of the park, and it feels completely dead back there. I think this park needs a renovation to the back half of the park to clear out all the old troubled rides, as well as any needed updates to animal exhibits. I think cleaning up this part of the park would give them some more land to work with to continue adding new rides if they choose to do so. Finally, we have Six Flags Magic Mountain, and this one should be obvious. This park needs a massive giga coaster because they don't have enough coasters already. I'm just kidding. There's no such thing as the park ever needing a giga coaster. What this park could certainly use is a few family or kiddie flat rides. This park pales in comparison to most other Six Flags parks when it comes to smaller flat rides. I think the park needs to add a few more family friendly rides outside of some of their smaller roller coasters. They just need to do something other than roller coasters to make sure there's enough to do for families. Every Six Flags park needs something because I don't think there's a perfect park in the whole chain. Like I said earlier, some parks need a lot of help and some parks don't need that much at all. However, what we think each park needs may differ from person to person. So I encourage you to kindly voice your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave me a like and subscribe to the channel for more amusement park videos coming very soon. With all that being said, I'd like to thank you guys all for watching and I'll see you all in the next video.